Do you know who has the beat who makes your booty go clap? Brudiclad.
Brudiclad. Whoa, fuck. Wait. Are we doing that or Enchants?
What did you think we were doing?
I thought we were doing Enchants.
We're doing Enchants next time.
Okay.
Are you not prepared again?
I have Xantcha. I can do that.
Okay. Well, okay. Then prepare yourself while I do this one.
Andy will be over here like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing.
Prepare yourself while I do this.
We do have somebody that requested Enchants, and so I think that was just on my mind.
Yeah, I mean,
but we'll do it. I mean, it's happening next week. They'll get it.
All right, cool.
So we're cool.
It's happening. So
got you, boo.
Artifacts aren't that important to Brudiclad. Like, he himself is an artifact. You can make artifact tokens. I think one of the challenges with a token deck, like if I'm just kind of thinking back about what I've observed you do,
sure,
is finding tokens that are valuable.
Right.
A lot of them are just like 1/1s, or if they are bigger than that, then they probably have really nothing else to them. You know, like, oh, I have a bunch of 5/5s, or things like that.
For the most part, there's not a lot of tokens that do anything other than be a body.
Yeah.
Right? For the most part.
So it's kind of a two-sided coin. On one side of the coin, if you have a lot of them and they themselves are just like 1/1s or whatever, or 2/2s, like that's usually enough. But on the other side is, even if they get any kind of help, they become really threatening really quick.
Oh yeah.
So trample is something that, like having them have trample or menace or any kind of effect that makes them difficult to.
Yeah, so I think it's one that I used from Return to Ravnica. I think it's Advent of the Worm gives you worms that have trample.
Yeah.
So
worms that have trample.
Yeah.
Drakes that have flying. Things like this. So kind of looking at his idea around Brudiclad is, I think you can go a couple directions. You can try to pick one kind of valuable token that you're really trying to push forward.
Okay.
He gives you let me just kind of read them off, like, since
like, here's what this commander is and does.
I feel like I always do this, like describe the deck before the commander. So Brudiclad, Telcore Engineer, 4, a blue and a red, legendary artifact creature, artificer, not a mirror.
For some reason.
Creature tokens you control have haste, so he does kind of lend that to them, which is probably the strongest thing.
That's actually pretty dope.
Yeah, that's really strong. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then you may choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. He's a 4/4.
Yeah.
So to kind of keep this low to the ground, if you have a 1/1 servo, at the beginning of your combat, you create the 2/1 mirror, and then you can turn that 1/1 servo into a 2/1 mirror. So it kind of upgrades a little bit.
Sure.
So what should stick out about this is, tokens have haste, and it doesn't say token creatures. It can be any kind of token, which I kind of want to visit that in the middle of this deck
may be important
about what to do. So the haste is important, and I guess the direction I decided to go was, well, let's think about ways to get the most valuable tokens we can.
Sure.
And then the second path is to get the most numerous. So we're going to convert them all. You only really need one valuable token, and then you can convert those.
Yeah, then all of them become that.
Yeah. Right. So right away, if you want to try to kind of take the direction that I've taken, you want to start searching for things that make token copies of creatures. So either your opponent's creatures or your own creatures. So anything that creates token copies. Right away, I just kind of start from the top of what a good token copy card would be. There's a Rite of Replication. Yeah. So it's 2, a blue and a blue for a sorcery, well-known card. It's actually $4.50.
It's an expensive kicker, but in the case of Brudiclad, you don't really need to, right?
You don't need to, but it would give you the numbers again. But if one of those targets is already pretty valuable, I mean, if you have the mana, like, absolutely do it. But don't feel pressured to do it. Like, don't hold back. So 2, a blue and a blue. The kicker is 5, so we're going up to 7 mana. Yeah. Put a token copy onto the put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature. If Rite of Replication was kicked, put 5 of those tokens onto the battlefield. So I think if you're needing to hold up a counter, or you kind of have a really feeling that whatever creature that you want to clone is going to be killed soon. Like, I don't know, somebody's consecrated sphinx. Things like that. Don't wait to get to 7.
I always feel obligated whenever I have a Rite of Replication in my hand to kick it, but that's really not necessary.
I'm kind of feeling lately like I fell into that hole a couple months back where I was waiting for the optimal time to do everything.
Sure.
And it's hard to know in a commander game.
Oh yeah.
Because of the concept of card advantage and obviously your opponent's observing the use of your cards and your opponent's cards. And
right.
Comet Storm kind of is the one that sticks out. I never really know when to shoot Comet Storm unless it's obvious and we're like all really low.
Yeah.
And I just burn them off.
But how often do you get to that spot
there,
where like you have an advantageous moment?
Yeah,
just that.
It felt like it just sits. It's just it's this piece of lead in my hand like halfway through most of the game. All right, so next token card, Shihili's Artistry. So this one's actually really strong.
Yeah.
4 a blue and a blue. Choose one or both. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact, or create a token that's a copy of target creature, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types.
That one's, you talked about that when we were...
So you can do this twice if it's a token, if it's an artifact creature.
Yeah.
You can be, okay, my artifact pick is this, and my creature pick is this.
Yeah.
It can be the same.
Yeah,
same guy.
You talked about that one in the review. Like, that's an important card for Brudiclad.
I believe so.
Like, very important card.
I believe so. Stolen Identity. 4 a blue and a blue. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target artifact or creature. And then it has this very special cipher mechanic. So you can then cipher. Then you may exile the spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever the creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So this could be kind of repeated.
Yeah.
It kind of wouldn't come back around to the next part because you've already gone through your combat.
Sure.
And then he's already made it into a clone, but this is kind of subordinating his ability a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. The nice thing about that is that you have it available when other things land in yards, right?
Right. And if you're making Thopters, this would be a good one to strap it to.
Yeah.
There's actually red abilities that clone creatures.
Oh, are there?
There are, dude. Twin Flame. 1 and a red.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Choose any number of target creatures you control. Each of them, for each of them, put a token that's a copy of that creature into the battlefield. Those tokens have haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. Also, you can do Strive. You can pay an extra 2 and a red, more to cast for each target beyond the first. I don't see why you would. Maybe if you want to get more numbers of tokens.
Yeah.
There's some effects
I was gonna say that one's kind of like helpful in a Boros context to use the Strive thing, but in this context, you just need a single clone, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen where you would end up needing to do the Strive. Because again, you do want numbers and quality. You actually kind of want both for him. I don't know if...
Oh, what a greedy commander.
Really, the way I did this, if all you're looking to do is like, I want to make a bunch of mirrors into Thopters, then...
Yeah, your path is a lot easier.
Then sick, dude. Flame Shadow Conjuring is another one. This is really big in Riku'd lists. It's 3 and a red. Enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay red. If you do, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. That token gains haste. Exile at the beginning of the next end step. So these two cards, there are some out there, and I didn't put in my list, so I can't come up with it. I can't say off the top of my head, but watch out for anything that says the token has and then exile it, like any kind of effect like that. Like where it says, yeah, the token has, exile it at the end of step, or sacrifice it at the end step, because that ability will be propagated through the tokens you've created.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. So specifically meaning like, so I think an example of this contextually that comes up for me is with Phenax. Phenax has creatures you control have tap target opponent or target player mills, right?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of something that...
So it's putting this, it's usually in quotations, the creature has in quotations this thing.
Yeah.
And then
it has this ability.
And then whereas the opposition of that would be, or the alternative of that would be that the card itself or the ability itself is making the tokens do that, as opposed to the token making itself do that. Right?
I think the ones I've picked that you won't be subject to that if it propagates through.
Okay.
So something like Splinter Twin, 2 a red and a red, enchanted creature has tap, put a token that is a copy of this creature onto the battlefield. That token has haste, exile at the beginning of that token has haste, but then it says period, exile at the beginning of the next end step. Okay. So yeah, the token that you've Splinter Twinned has to go.
Yeah.
But everything outside of that
else is fine.
So these are kind of a showcase of some of the cloning effects.
Okay.
Right, because that's what I want to do.
You want to make
go from a singleton format to not a singleton format. I want to have the many copies of creatures that
so we're going from
like
you said, we're going from having like vanilla tokens to I'm going to take things that already exist and make tokens out of them.
Yeah. So to answer that question, which ones are we looking to do?
Sure.
What are our big targets that we're looking to clone? I really kind of want to look at your opponent, but some of these abilities aren't going to be doing that, right?
Okay.
So let's look at the first big one. It's Mere Battlesphere. This kind of handles, so to contextualize the deck, it's kind of got three big gears. One gear is cloning big stuff into tokens. Another gear is producing tokens to propagate them using, I don't know what else to call it, but that's kind of what I'm going for, right? Propagate Brudiclad's ability into those tokens. And then the last piece is just to produce like a lot of numerous tokens as cheaply and as frequently as I can.
What's the name of that artifact that becomes a copy of any target permanent? It's a mirror.
The Mirage Mirror?
Oh, the Mirage Mirror.
It's not a token.
I know, but I'm just saying.
But if you made a token copy of it...
They're becoming mirrors of
the
tokens, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're replicants.
They are replicants.
They're replicants. And replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem. So Mere Battlesphere, 7 mana, artifact creature, Mere Construct. When Mere Battlesphere enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless Mere artifact creature tokens into the battlefield. So this is kind of both sides of this gear, this machine I've been describing. When Mere Battlesphere attacks, you may tap X untapped Mere you control. If you do, Mere Battlesphere gets X plus O until end of turn, and it deals X damage to defending player. It's a 4/7. So this would be really good to create a clone token of. This would be really good to make a clone token of. Yeah, this one would be really good. This would be really good. It's kind of straddling both sides of the machine. Same with the Rapacious one. It's a 5/1 for a 5/4 trample, but it says when Rapacious one deals combat damage to a player, put that many 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn tokens into the battlefield. They have sacrificed this creature, add 1 to your mana pool.
Okay.
So I guess if you're really trying to, let's say you have 2 cloning effects in your hand.
Yeah.
Create a token of this one, start hitting, make all the tokens copies of this thing, start hitting some more, and you're going really wide. Ooh. And get ready for a fucking board wipe.
Yeah, that's coming for sure.
Yeah, which I'll talk about that. The Sharding Sphinx is another one that kind of straddles both sides of the machine.
Sphinx?
The Sharding Sphinx.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, thank you very so much. Sharding Sphinx, 4 a blue and a blue, flying. Whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may put a 1/1 blue... Why are you laughing? I'm in the middle of reading a card right now.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Sharding Sphinx, 4 blue and a blue, flying. Whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may put a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying into the battlefield. It's a 4/4.
I'm still dying, dude.
So it's still kind of on both sides of this machine.
Yeah.
Are there any ones that kind of do that do both, kind of give you tokens and would be good to clone? Oh, well, like the Utvara Hellkite.
Oh yeah,
how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that would it's just gonna get exponential and gross and disgusting.
Yeah,
right?
so this one again kind of straddles both sides. So
the Utvara Hellkite to me is one of those cards. It's like,
on paper it sounds fucking dope.
It's always kill on sight. I never get to do anything with it. I cast it and like somebody steals it. Somebody destroys it. Which is the thing to do with the Utvara Hellkite, but you can do shit with it in this context before you pass the turn, right? Like it's already bad. news.
They'll have haste.
Yeah.
They'll have haste.
Yeah.
So Uvara Hellkite, 6 a red and a red, so it's 8 mana. Flying, when a dragon you control attacks, create a 6/6 red dragon creature token with flying.
But
So it'll give so very low to the ground. Like if none of your other effects are coming online, you have a 6/6 that leaves a 6/6 behind when it attacks.
Yeah.
But if this itself becomes a token, then
you have all of the tokens become
other dragons. Then
they become Utvara Hellkites that all say when a dragon.
Yes, so math cannot explain what direction this is going to take.
Yeah,
there's no way.
You better like call your fucking engineer friends and tell them to bring their calculators to this game.
There's no way math cannot do it.
Like it's a good thing that Brudiclad happens to be an engineer. He's gonna have to get out his calculator.
I'm trying to think of any others that would be really good on both sides of this, because I've got kind of token producers, guys you want to clone. Let's kind of just pivot back to ones you want to clone, since we're looking at the clones. I really think. Oh wait, here's another one. Goblin Rabble Master.
What's
so it's two in a red. Other goblins you control attack each turn of Fable, like they ever don't. If I just that whole text line should just be replaced with "duh," and then you know what they want you to do.
Attack. Duh.
They know what you want. They know what you want. Yeah. You know what they want you to do. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 green goblin creature token with haste. So kind of, if you have a lot of these token goblin, I'd be dumb enough to clone this one. Whenever a Goblin Rabble Master attacks, it gets a +1/+0 until the end of the turn for each attacking goblin. It's a 2/2. So it's probably on the smaller side of the holy shit, I'm a good thing to clone. And I make you tokens to propagate into.
You just had to sap and impurify your deck's precious bodily fluids with some goblins, didn't you?
Yeah. We're in red. We're talking tokens.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. That's where you got to go, at least in part.
Yeah. So switching back to one side of this machine that we're describing, talking about just good things to clone that they don't necessarily bring you a lot of tokens or at all, I guess. It would be really, really cool to clone a Combat Celebrant. Oh. So 2 in a red. If Combat Celebrant hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks. When you do, untap all other creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So if you have a lot of tokens of these, and you move into a combat after a combat after a combat, I believe that you've achieved an infinite. Yeah, an infinite combat step, because Brudiclad does this on his combat step.
Yeah, and they have haste, and let's go.
Let's go. That would be a good one to make a clone of. Yeah. Also, Angrath's Marauders would get out of hand really quick.
I've used this one with some small amount of success.
But think about having a lot of them.
But yeah, that would be...
So 5 a red and a red. If a source would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player. Instead, it's a 4/4. So if you have many copies of Angrath's Marauder, you probably really don't even need to go that wide. You just need to sink one in.
Just get a couple
in. Double with these sources.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah, and they would have haste.
Right.
They would have haste.
You gotta be careful with that one, though, right? Because it applies to you, too, right?
If a source... no,
it doesn't.
So. Yeah, if a source you control will deal damage to a permanent or player.
Because he's like 7 converted mana, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. A little more sense because it's the higher CMC.
Yeah, you wouldn't really need to make that many. Even dropping it by itself might be okay, even if you don't have the ability to turn it into a token, convert it into a token.
Okay.
The Vile Aggregate. So I'm kind of on the fence with this one. On paper, it seems fucking disgusting, but I can't help myself. So it's 2 in a red, so it's not very expensive.
Okay.
Vile Aggregate is in a creature Eldrazi drone. It has Devoid. This card has no color. Vile Aggregate's power is equal to the number of colorless creatures you control, and it actually has Trample and Ingest.
Okay.
To remind what Ingest is whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. Not equal to that amount of damage.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's a star 5.
Gotcha.
So let's say you've got a lot of Thopters or mirror going on, and you make really, even if you make a token of this, it can become they all turn into this.
Sure.
And they are all devoid.
Right, exactly.
So I'm thinking it could get pretty fucking huge.
That's
a lot of them. And they are trample. That's kind of why I was kind of on the fence about this, but I'm like,
it's going to spill over.
It's got trample.
That's a big deal when you're doing anything wide. Because there come those moments where you're like, I have a lot of stuff and it's going to get board wiped, but I'm not going to get into a satisfactory degree.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the ones I think that would be good to make clones out of, like turn them from a creature to a token. So this is the deck. I mean, you're looking at like, okay, I want to make tokens, or either I want to produce valuable tokens or make a lot of them. As far as token producers go, so now we're not really talking about making copies of these. We're just saying, okay, these are the numbers we want. At first I was like, well, I want to have them be good blockers at the very least, but then I thought, I don't know, man, like the more creatures it's board wipe, it's a board wipe call.
It's the common problem with any large tokening strategy is if anybody has a board wipe,
so some of it, so some of it's unavoidable. Like I feel like you gotta make creature tokens. So we've got like the Beetleback Chief, 2 of red and red. When Beetleback Chief enters the battlefield under your control, create 2 red goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield. So those can become 2/1 mirrors at your combat step if he's around. We got good old Kranko.
Yeah, Kranko's perfect.
Kranko mob boss. Emrakul's Hatcher, 4 and a red. When Emrakul's Hatcher enters the battlefield, create 3 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. So that just kind of gives those when they enter the battlefield. The Goblin, the Handwear Garrison, so 2 and a red. Whenever the Handwear Garrison attacks, put 2/1 red human creature tokens onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking.
I like that one.
So we're not really we're not really sticking to a specific type of token because it's just going to get transformed tokens anyway. Yeah, you actually kind of want a variety: Goblin, Mirror, Thopter, just whatever the fuck you can get your hands on.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about this is it allows you to pick the most efficient ways to token in the colors. Like you're not limited by tokening in a tribe. Let's just get fucking.
I mean, I put the goblin sub theme in here because I can't help myself.
Well, but let's be honest though, like goblins when it comes to tokening they're gonna get
they're
you
the
a lot of
MTG
bodies.
Master Race, yeah. So
they're the MTG second.
No, the MTG Master Race. Siege Gang Commander, 3, a red and a red creature goblin. When Siege Gang Commander enters the battlefield, you create 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Yeah. You could kind of go around this and be like, I'm just going to do cannon fodder and Kranko's command and just dump them in.
Sure.
You don't really need creatures. I just thought, I don't know. I usually want them coming off of a creature if I can help it.
Yeah, extra bodies are nice.
Yeah. Whirler Rogue. 2 and a blue and a blue. Whenever Whirler Rogue enters the battlefield, create 2 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. What I liked about this is that you can tap 2 untap artifacts you control and target creature can't be blocked this turn. So if we've got like a really big Vile Aggregate, or you've rolled up a really big mirror battle sphere, like you've got a lot of mirror and you've been able to tap a lot of them and you just want to punch one thing through.
Okay.
So that's kind of why I included this.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You remember this bad boy? The Reefworm, dude.
Give it to me.
The Reefworm. So it's 3 in a blue.
Reefworm.
3 in a blue.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 in a blue. When Reefworm dies, so it's 3 in a blue for a 0/1 worm. This is like that part of for some reason when I look at this card, I can't help but think of Star Wars Episode 1, where they're like in that weird sea part, the best part of the whole movie when they're in the Gungan city or they're leaving the Gungan city, the best part of all the Star Wars movies, best parts,
very much.
Yeah, so the part. So they're piloting out of there and this big fish is chasing them, right? And then I don't know how many times it happens, but pretty much like a bigger fish shows up and Liam Neeson's like, there's always a bigger fish. That's this card. Reefworm.
It really is. When I just think of evolutionary biology as all just.
Yeah.
I mean,
strip the romance right out of it.
There you go, dude.
When the Reefworm dies, you put a 3/3 blue fish creature token into the battlefield. But there's always a bigger fish. When this creature dies, put a 6/6 blue whale creature token into the battlefield with. When this creature dies, there's always a bigger fish. put a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token onto the battlefield. That's some pretty good board wipe insurance.
This deck has some really funny synergies. Like I like the idea of cloning the Utvara Hellkite.
Yeah.
I like this because now all of these tokens you've created
become a problem.
Like it's not just like this one thing. Like,
and seriously, talk to your play group about banning Cyclonic Rift. You know, before you roll this bad boy out, just so the reform doesn't get unbuttoned. Because as soon as it becomes a token, it gets put back in your hand. Like, motherfuck, dude. I wanted to have that episode 1 moment.
I know.
I wanted to have that episode 1 moment. So yeah, these are kind of like a snapshot of just the new. That one probably should have been on the other side of the gear, right?
Right.
Of the machine, the quality token. Because dude, what are you gonna do with the 9/9 Kraken?
Exactly.
And then they keep dying and just So. Weirdly enough, I actually don't know if you'd want to propagate the 9/9 into your other ones. Like, let's say somehow only one of them died. Maybe if it's like an alpha strike, but you kind of want that insurance policy of they keep dying.
If they die, like you want to stick with like the second down level down.
Yeah,
it's the pyramid scheme of tokening.
Yeah. There's another side to this that you could pursue if, let's say, you do have a really board wipe heavy meta.
Okay.
Treasure tokens or gold,
which I really wish that treasure had just been gold.
Yeah, you've raged about that for a minute. Actually,
I'm weird. Like I have weird little battles that I pick out.
Like, why are there 2 tokens?
Nobody fucking cares. And I'm just over here like, why is treasure not gold? You fucking assholes! And like, who's this guy?
Yeah,
I'm gonna be that person that's like holding up the like world is ending signs.
Well, get on someone what's his face's blog and get him to answer that one. Like, look, I don't care about anything else. I don't care what you guys' plans are. I don't want to know, who Nicol Bolas is going to have sex with.
Like, what I want, fifth Return to Ravnica is going to look like.
What I want to know is what was the rationale behind doing treasure token over gold token
when we already had gold.
Thoughts?
Tell me. All right.
Please answer. So Captain Lannery Storm, bro. Remember we were bashing on this chick?
Yeah, we were bringing that dog shit to the table?
We were bashing on this chick. So it's 2 and a red for haste. Whenever Captain Lannery Storm attacks, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap artifact or sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Whenever you sacrifice a treasure, Captain Lannery Storm gets +1 until the end of the turn. So she kind of is dual purpose. She can kind of function a little bit to get your stuff out earlier. Yeah. Particularly Brudiclad, but the tokens that she makes are harder to reach. Pretty much they have to destroy target artifacts.
And are people really going to do that?
Short of a Vandal Blast, I don't see that happening. Way. So my thought I actually started to value these. So if there's more of these effects that you want to include and you have a really, really board wipe heavy meta, then these are probably the ones you want to go for. Gold and treasure. Because like we were thinking, no one's gonna. I doubt somebody's gonna spot remove that.
So this last weekend we had a game where I was using Revel in Riches, and I
wish that could be in this, but yeah,
I was sitting on like 4 or 5 treasure tokens.
They're good. They're great.
After a board wipe, and so when it came around to my turn, I just pushed out way more than everybody else did in my redevelopment process because of this.
Spell Swindle. That would be a good one. It's 3 a blue and a blue, I think, isn't it? I don't have it on the list. I don't. If you know how my philosophy about counter magic, I don't want anything that high up. But if you're really pivoting hard to, I want a safe repository for my token propagation, and treasure and gold is how I'm doing it.
I was gonna say, like, if you're doing this treasure thing, like, it suddenly makes things like a Comet Storm being in the deck
a little bit
much more viable.
True.
And valuable.
True. Brass's Bounty's 6 and a red, while we're talking about her anyway. For each land you control, for a sorcery, for each land you control, create a colorless treasure token, artifact token with sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any color. So
cool.
For every land you pop this, you have now a lot of places to propagate that value token into the thing you've cloned or whatever you're doing.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then just Curse of Opulence. Sorry, it's gold this time.
Yeah,
so
sure.
one red enchant player, whenever enchanted player is attacked, create a colorless artifact token named Not Treasure. It has sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any mana to your mana pool. Each opponent attacking that player does the same. So kind of like going down this route. Mechanized production, enchant artifact you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. When you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. So this would be something. Are you okay with having a lot of soul rings on your upkeep? Things like that. You can always switch creatures over to this thing that you're creating to get this thing online quicker, or vice versa.
Right.
Because the language on his card doesn't ask you to only do creature tokens.
Yeah, it's just tokens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving the flexibility of this. That, like, you can make your tokens into what's kind of necessary at the moment you're at.
So I think I'm almost done talking about this.
All right.
Because I want to give you time to do yours. Tamiyo's Journal's another one. She gives you a clue.
Okay.
Or it gives you a clue. 5 for a legendary artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate. So you create a colorless clue artifact token. That you can pay 2 to sacrifice it to draw a card. So this one's kind of more cost intensive. It doesn't give you mana like the treasures or golds.
Okay.
My thought is that if you really needed to, you could sacrifice 3 clues. You can tap it and sacrifice 3 clues, search your library for a card, and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Getting 3 is pretty easy if you just transition them over.
In this context,
so it doubles as a tutor. I think that's the reason I left it in, and it was something that was kind of perpetual on the upkeep.
So do they call that ability a raging clue?
I think they call it hang on. Yeah, no, it's there. Prototype Portal's another one. So 4 has imprint. When Prototype Portal enters the battlefield, you may exile an artifact card from your hand. You can pay X and tap it, create a token that's a copy of the exiled card. X is the converted mana cost of that card. So again, you want to just kind of keep giving yourself a new soul ring every turn.
Yeah.
There it is.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of another piece to it. Maybe thinking about tokens in a different way. If there's a very, very board wipe happy meta you're playing in, then maybe you want to kind of back off the goblin stuff and just try to do the treasure.
Yeah, that's actually
the other piece is to maybe increase the counter magic to stop any board wipes that come down. So I included kind of your low to the ground 3, your obligatory 3 counter magic. So Negate, Swan Song, these kind of things. Eldrazi Monument is another way to kind of keep your tokens up and going. You will be able to feed it. It's 5 mana. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. That's what's really good. So they'll have haste because of Brudiclad, and then flying and indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, you will have to sacrifice a creature. If you can't, you sacrifice the Eldrazi Monument. So maybe you just...
Yeah, that's okay.
I mean, yeah, the combat you get the 2/1.
But then, so I mean, those types of cards are getting expensive because there's a Chroma's Memorial as well that would probably be helpful.
Gives them
whenever you're talking about tokening, right? Because you get flying, protection from.
Does it give him vigilance?
I'm trying to remember. It is a keyword soup card for sure.
Chroma's Memorial. Yes, yeah, I'd be okay with that because it's flying, first strike, trample. Flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black and red, from red. Does that protect the creatures from his ability, though? Because he's red.
Yeah, that might not work, actually.
I didn't include it. I just did the Eldrazi Monument.
I mean, the Eldrazi Monument's good.
The other piece is card draw. I don't usually go over that in these our deck text because I feel like, hey, it's an EDH deck. Like, you need to have your card draw. And people have preferences.
Sure.
But Thopter Spy Network is probably a good idea because it kind of doubles the machine, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's 2 and a blue. 2 and 2 blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature or token with flying. Whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you can control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So it's only 1. I'm trying to think of any other card draw sources that are unique to having a lot of tokens. Bident of Thassa, and then you could do Coastal Piracy to push it further.
Those two both are going to draw you a lot of cards.
Because it's combat oriented.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else that's really good. Oh yeah, the Helm of the Host with Brudiclad.
What? Helm of the Host?
Yeah, so it turns out Helm of the Host can make a token copy of a legendary. So just think about what that means with that one. Yeah. Oh, and I put kind of my one piece of side tech that I wanted to try out. I don't think it needs to be in this list, but I've kind of wanted to say, I want to kind of get it to the point where I've won, even if we've got some serious pillow forts, or unless somebody combos off or something. Or I haven't won, but I've kind of really threatened the idea of anyone else winning.
Sure.
It's Vicious Shadows. So it's 6 in a red. Whenever a creature is put into the graveyard from play, you may have Vicious Shadows deal damage to that player, or to target player, equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. So this is like a very big threatening, don't mess with my shit. There's like a Stalking Vengeance that could do this too, but it's a creature, so I feel like it was a softer target. It could have been cloned, but it might just be overkill. But this one is like, if anything of mine goes up in flames, that people are going to get hurt. And I did include a sack outlet of Goblin Bombardment. So it's 1 in red, sacrifice a creature, Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So this can kind of set off... because pillow forts happen. You might not be able to go wide against somebody.
Well, and again, like, let's remember, when you're doing tokens, you're going to call out board wipes. You may as well get some bang for your buck on while they're on their way out, right? Like, is another thing. This
would go really well with. There's just so many creatures that I thought about cloning. I mean, at one point I even thought about the Goblin Sharpshooter, like just doing a bunch of pingers. There's just clones of pingers everywhere, because that could do some serious work. After a couple tokens of those, then we really don't even need to worry about going sideways. We can just
you just clear everything.
Ping people to death. There's an infinite in. I included Kiki-Jiki.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Kiki-Jiki's got it.
So I threw the Zealot Conscripts in there.
Okay.
In case this thing just goes sideways really quick, where you're just like, okay, I can't get a board state. I can't get any footing. I just got to end this.
All right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm pretty into this thing. I'm just afraid of just what the board wipes will do to it. Yeah. So maybe I just either go the treasure route to kind of have a good place to have them safe, and you're gonna have to make some shitty choices there. I think I added some good ones, but there's some shitty treasure generators where it's just like a vanilla creature, like a 3/3 that brings a treasure, like things like that. You could do that, and then it might not seem all that threatening, because all you're doing is making treasures.
Sure.
And anyone who really understands like what you're up to might figure that out. But what are they gonna do? It's a Vandal Blast or nothing, or maybe by force. I don't even know. Like, there's not even,
but it's just like, are you really gonna
Bane of Progress? You just sack in response.
Well, exactly.
Just sack them all and add mana to your mana pool and don't give them anything.
Yeah.
Or you increase the counter magic density, so you just don't allow things that would upend your board state to be resolved.
I think that's what's nice here, right? Is that having like a Swan Song, Arcane Denial, and just holding up a couple mana, so that when those board wipes come down, like, although that might be an arms race thing, it might increase the density of board wipes in your group, but
yeah. The other thing that you might notice is that I didn't put anything like, oh, let's make a clone of It That Betrays, or just name a big Eldrazi, the Pathrazer Ulamog or whatever. It's because I thought to myself, like, I'm probably going to need to do these in the same turn. Clone happens.
Oh yeah.
Token goes out. Everybody kind of reads your board state and they kind of see the writing on the wall, right? Like, okay,
those
he's got a token
things are the things that
copy.
Need to do, like, resolve what they're gonna do now.
They have haste, so I just But I don't know. I guess I don't trust myself with creatures that big. I don't trust you guys with creatures that big. So I went with like the Vile Aggregate that might not be super big right away, but over time it is getting kind of this Titan level. I don't know. I'd have to play it. Maybe the haste piece of it makes it really hard for anyone to really respond. So I could just like, all right, here, because you know where I'm going with it.
Oh yeah.
You know where I'm going with it. I still have to resolve the creature. Right. I still have to put out a token. Yeah, or I have to put the creature out there before I token it.
For sure.
So you know, like, oh, he's got to... I mean, whenever do people not scramble to get rid of an It That Betrays?
Well, exactly.
So I didn't want to do that. Huh. I wanted to do that.
I wanted to do that.
I just wasn't confident.
But I understood the implication.
I just wasn't confident. I'm not confident. The mana curve is pretty high on this thing, and I tried my best to kind of limit it. Because at one point I did have all that shit in there. I'm like, oh my god, Blight still Colossus. I had all of that going on. But after a while, I'm like, I just don't see this happening. I don't see myself cloning this thing fast enough or getting a token version of it fast enough.
Right.
They are threats in and of themselves. There's no I'm just not confident. Okay, what do you got for me?
That's a good question. Let me pass this thing to you because I stop dealing with the camera whenever I'm doing a deck.
Okay.
I'm really self-conscious.
Which button does what?
That's a really good question. I'm really self-conscious. Somebody commented that he's just watching these videos and he's just like, I just can't take my eyes off the bald guy's balls.
Somebody commented about your dick?
Yeah, and I was just like, well, so I'm torn. I'm like, should I wear the tight hipster shorts so you can see my balls, or?
I mean, it's your body, Kyle.
Yeah, dude, don't body shame my balls, dude.
Dress up or down to your comfort level. Dress up or down to your comfort level.
That is what I have done. So I've got Xantcha. This is
Xantcha. How hard was this one? Hard? Easy?
So let me kind of contextualize, I guess, my thinking going into this.
Okay.
We've talked about there being some commanders that they're not really asking you to do anything specific, right?
Do you think this chick is that?
She kind of straddles this border between you have to do this strategy and yeah, you can kind of do whatever.
Really?
I think so. So let me read Xantcha Sleeper Agent off.
Yeah.
So she's 1 in Rakdos, so black-red. So a Xantcha Sleeper Agent enters the battlefield. An opponent of your choice gains control of it. Xantcha attacks each combat if able, and can't attack its owner or planeswalkers its owner controls. And it has activated ability of pay 3. Xantcha's controller loses 2 life, and you draw a card. Any player may activate this ability.
Huh.
So...
That's a spicy...
Yeah,
it's a spicy spy who loved me.
So I this is just a side note. I think what's really interesting about the Commander releases is how the design teams at Wizards, they actually do kind of play around with some things that maybe we don't see in standard releases. Specifically, we saw in the 2014 release, they really messed around with the command zone. It happened last year with Eminence as well.
Yeah.
And then there was the partner thing. This year there was kind of they're playing around with the idea in some instances of owning cards.
Do you feel
controlling? Do
you feel like that's a good way to evaluate commander cards? I could see this in standard, or I can't because I can't see her being in standard. I mean, the language on her is insane.
There's absolutely no reason for.
She's just a really great blocker. You're giving. Yeah,
this card is. Its only places in Commander.
Right.
So. But
there's some cards that came out in this release that
you could see them being in other places.
For sure, even just see them even in standard.
Right. But
for sure.
Xantcha's just I'm for Commander only. There's no other place to put me. Which I think is kind of cool. But that doesn't, I don't think, qualify her as good right away, right? Kudos to you guys, you designed something for Commander. But
doesn't necessarily mean those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
Right, exactly.
That if it's good for Commander, it's good. Period. Or if it's for Commander, it's good.
Right.
Sorry, I just
you're exactly right. And that's what I'm
thinking about that.
That's what I'm saying. You can design something for only Commander and it can still be shitty. Xantcha's really cool though. So what she does want, and I'm not going to go over the infinite mana thing. Because I think Xantcha's an interest to the Commander community. People have already gone over the infinite mana thing because what you can do with Xantcha. So let's just cover the math of it. I'm not going to go over the pieces you can use, but if you create infinite mana, what you're doing is you're just paying 3. Its controller loses 2 life.
You donated it to.
You draw a card. Now, unless somebody's gained a substantial amount of life, and you're at a 4-player game. You're not going to deck yourself doing that. You'll be fine.
And she rezones after they die, right?
Right. So, she rezones. Mana, so you cast her, goes to somebody else. You
drain them again.
You draw 20 cards. If they're at full life, drain them for 40.
So pretty much you just need 6 colored mana, depending on how many opponents you have, to pull her in and out of the zone to get around.
So if you can create infinite mana, I'm not going to cover that. There's other content creators that have. There's plenty of stuff out there on Reddit and out there in the community that tells you how to get infinite mana with Xantcha or in other contexts. So obviously that's a package that you, depending on your playgroup style and what you're comfortable with personally,
or your moral labyrinth,
you may or may not want to put that into your deck, because it is she just gives you a win con that goes with infinite mana, right?
Okay.
So that's available to you.
Okay.
So obviously, like, you kind of do want to focus on some way of making sure that you're abusing that activated ability on Xantcha.
All right.
But where I'm getting at with saying that, like, she's kind of straddling this, like, border of between do this specifically and do whatever else.
Most spies have to straddle something.
It's there are borders to straddle there for sure. So then it's kind of like, well, what else do I do? Like, because you have more space in your deck than just trying to create infinite mana. So what else are you going to do? You're never going to have the commander under your control. Well, I mean, I guess there's an Minato that could, like,
shove it
to you, I guess. Like, it would enter back in. I don't know. There are exceptional ways, but you're probably never going to have Xantcha under your own control, right? So you just need other things that you need to do in the deck. So I kind of leaned into a couple specific, I guess, sub themes that I think I'd like to use with Xantcha. You brought up one of these that's kind of this first theme, is I think we need to incentivize people to use that activated ability.
Okay.
Right?
It's kind of a lot. I mean, it's 3 to draw a card.
Yeah, how often do you find yourself in a position that you're willing to pay 3 mana to draw a card?
It depends on what deck I'm playing. If I'm playing 8.5 Tails, I probably would like this a lot. I leave a lot of mana up to keep my board state protected with 8.5 Tails is activated. But also, I'm in white. I'm in mono white.
Yeah. So there's instances that, like in that position, like you said, you're leaving mana up. If you don't happen to spend it to protect yourself or protect your board state, let's sink it into her, draw cards. Cool.
Totally do it.
But if somebody's playing...
I'd totally sink it into her.
Somebody's playing blue, somebody's playing black, they probably have a pretty decent card drop, even green. They probably have a pretty decent card draw package in their deck. They don't need your ass.
Okay. So how do you plan to make them need your ass, Kyle?
This is a very, very good question. So I like this is a card you suggested in our review, and I think it's just perfect. Sire of Insanity. 4 black and red. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards his or her hand.
That activated ability is looking pretty hot now.
Now that you don't have a hand,
I cannot do anything.
You probably should spend some mana to draw some cards.
Probably. And
let's hope that you find something, because if you don't use it this turn, you're gonna discard it again. So yeah, like, I put in a substantial discard package into this deck, but I also put in some other cards. These are just kind of cute. Let me pause for a second and mention. Okay. I actually did make this list pretty decently budget.
Did you? Mine was not. Probably. I think we kind of set up a little bit of a precedent last time with our
like pre-cons revisited type
that was kind of the direction. This is just a straight up.
Yeah, these are decks like we're just doing. They're not reconfigurations.
But you managed to handle a budget a little bit.
This one is pretty budget.
Dude, good for you, dude.
So yeah, like I think you can do this and not have to break the bank.
All right.
So these are kind of some interesting little budget adds, I guess. There's a couple Miser cards that I've put into this deck.
Hell yeah.
So one of them is the Nat Miser. It's 1 black for a 1/1 rat shaman.
Hell yeah.
As it turns out.
I love rats, man. I do. I wish for more rats. Rat tribal.
Like, after we're done here, we're gonna watch the Rats of Nin.
The secrets in Nim and the Mice. The rats were bastards in that movie.
That's right.
It was like 1 or 2.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's been so long since I watched that. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked. So Nat Miser. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 1. Let's be honest about this.
It's not huge.
It's not a big deal.
Are you just trying it because you want to fuck around? Or?
I just kind of want to try it out.
Okay.
Because there's 2 obstacles to cards like this. One, if they obtain no max hand size.
Yeah, it shuts it off. And that's
fucked.
fairly proliferate in Commander.
Yeah, Commander uses it quite a bit. So let's be honest about this.
Okay.
These are just cute. There's also the Locust Miser that's 2 and 2 black for a 2/2, also Rat Shaman.
Okay.
Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 2.
It's good that these are opponent. Does the Nat Miser say opponent or is everybody?
Yeah, so the Nat Miser is opponents as well.
Okay,
Each
cool.
opponent's maximum hand size. So you keep your hand size in place, but your opponents are getting theirs reduced. There's an artifact as well that does something similar. This one, we may need to verify this site because I think the errata on it has that it's you choose an opponent, but the old text has opponents, and so
What is it?
I'm not entirely positive, but it's an artifact. Pay 4 mana. Opponents must discard down to 4 cards during his or her discard phase.
Opponents. Yeah, but I think it says his or her discard phase, so it really would only apply to the person that you're.
Yeah. So like I said, the errata has. I think it has that it's you choose an opponent. So you set one opponent. At a max hand size of 4, is what it does.
Okay.
So
What happens when you've managed to do that to everybody? So you have to keep activating it once they get past their last discard phase.
Right. So they're gonna get to this like smaller max hand size. Hopefully that's pushing them into a position where they're like, okay, I gotta get some more cards in hand. Now let's get serious though.
Okay. Let's get serious.
Because making people's max hand size smaller, that's cute. It's kind of
by cute you mean potentially ineffective. But
it could be fun. It could be fun to explore and just try out. Depending on how competitive your play group is, you could those could be total dog shit worthless cards. Or, it could be fun. But we want to put in other cards that are going to actually get us into real discard.
Okay.
So, Cunning Lethomancer. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player discards a card.
Ew.
Then we're going to put the Mind Slicer in here. So when Mind Slicer is put into a graveyard from play, each player discards his or her hand. One that's then we're going to put in some pressure type cards to go along with this. So specifically, Oppression. So whenever a player plays a spell, that player discards a card from his or her hand.
How much mana is that one?
So it's only 3. It's 1 and 2 black.
Dude, that one's... Ugh.
You can get this out early.
Yeah.
Like you can cast Xantcha
falls apart really quick.
on turn 3, and then the next turn you put Oppression out, and it's like it shreds fast. If you've got somebody that most players, they're gonna cast multiple spells frequently on a turn. What that means, if you cast 2 spells on a turn, that means 4 cards are coming out of that person's hand.
Yeah.
So
I hate discarding cards.
It's rough.
I actually hate discarding cards. It's like everything that you have. I don't know what it is. Milling kind of after a while bugs me.
Sure,
but
because you're kind of like, oh man,
pisses me off.
You know what's funny about mill is the thing that seems to frustrate people the most is when they don't have enough mana. And then they watch their lands get milled away.
And then they draw.
Oddly, that infuriates people the most. They're just like, fuck, I needed that swamp.
It's like false mana screw.
Like it was the illusion that it was there, So, like the ugly stepsister of Oppression is Painful Quandary. So 3 and 2 black. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless he or she discards a card. If you've managed to pull off something like a Mind Slicer, you're also they're
losing 5 life.
Yeah, they're losing 5 life. Like you're gonna bring this thing to a grind.
Unless they activate Xantcha's ability. And they don't have to pay 5 life. They just have to pay 3 mana and ping somebody.
Exactly. So we're trying to position people that way. Another one to use that I think is actually it's a really nice synergy with Xantcha is Words of Waste. I've used this with Erebos. So using Erebos's activated ability. I believe this one
qualifies for card advantage.
Yeah, it'll do it. So Words of Waste, 2 and a black for an enchantment that has an activated ability of pay 1. The next time you would draw a card this turn, each opponent discards a card from his or her hand instead. So you pay the 3 for Xantcha's activated ability. You pay the 1 for Words of Waste. Instead of you drawing a card, everybody loses. Everybody must discard a card. And I think that player still loses too.
Yeah, they do.
So you're still bringing that person down. The point being here, like, we want to make it so obviously if you've got
people are willing to invest in your scam.
Exactly.
They're willing to invest in your scam.
You are selling snake oil to everybody.
Needing to invent.
For sure.
Well, it's worse than that. It's like you went to the town and poisoned the water hole and now you're selling the snake oil to make everybody stop shitting themselves into the grave. It's
true. That's actually a better way of putting it. I am Daniel Plainview. We've been making a lot of references to that movie lately.
We have.
Probably one of my favorites. Just another one that I put in there. I haven't used this one before, but I'm actually really intrigued by it. I don't know why I haven't tried it out before. It's the Banshee of the Dread Choir. So it's 3 and 2 black. It has Myriad. So a reminder of what Myriad is. It says whenever this creature attacks, for each opponent other than the defending player, you may put a token that's a copy of this creature onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. That player or a planeswalker he or she controls exile tokens at the end of combat. And it has whenever Banshee of the Dread Choir deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card.
So multiple of these Banshees can come in and...
Yeah, so and like if we're looking at it without Myriad, Banshee of the Dread Choir would not be, I don't believe, a good discard engine, I guess, in Commander. But because of Myriad, you know, if you like having like a really big play group for your Commander night, it just gets better. The more the merrier, right? With Myriad. So I think that's another one that might be interesting to try and use. My theory with discard is I want it to be things that are repeatable or that are ongoing.
Yeah.
I don't like single instances of discard in the context of a multiplayer game where all the players start with 40 life, i.e. Commander. I just don't think they're efficient enough. So that's kind of the discard package. We want to incentivize using Xantcha. I've kind of got 2 other themes that I put into this deck. So one of them is really simple. I just dialed up the amount of spot removal that I have in the deck
to clear the way for her to attack. Because she has to attack every turn.
So she has to attack every turn. Xantcha attacks each combat if able and can't attack its owner and planeswalker. So you're safe. Xantcha's not coming at you. But she's going to go. And obviously a 5/5 on turn 3, she's probably going to get some hits in early.
Yeah.
That work out pretty well. But as other players develop their game, there will be bigger creatures that will be obliged to block her. So my thought being that, like, I want to have the ability to remove blockers so that she gets through. She passes through.
Yeah, I mean, it does double duty. They take the damage, they lose a creature.
Right.
Both of which are your opponents.
So if somebody's got a large creature that they're obliged or willing to put in front of Xantcha as a blocker.
Okay.
Just wanting to put in a lot of instant speed removal. So pick your list, you know, like pick your removal. There's tons of it in black and red. You know, Chaos Warp, Doomblade, Hero's Downfall, Murder, like Sudden Spoiling is another good option.
Yeah.
To put into the deck.
At the other person that's
the person that's blocking.
Yeah, I get it.
So there's just I think this Xantcha strategy is going to meet a hiccup when she's attacking and you're in the mid game. And so to avoid having to recast your commander, I think it's a worthwhile investment to hold up some mana and kill things that are going to block her.
Okay.
And if people don't block, then you have mana that you've held up that you can sink into her activated ability. So I think it's a perfect match for her. I actually put Drana into the deck as well because it's a repeatable way to do something like this.
Spend mana to just drop things.
Yeah, so 3 and 2
what about
black.
like Pestilence?
Pestilence is also in the deck.
You love Pestilence.
As well as Pyrohemia.
So you want to really clear out tokens.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that she's free to get through.
Okay. Not a bad idea.
I think there's some of the things that I've been seeing lately in our play group is we've seen some pesky Death Touch creatures.
I am way into Death Touch lately.
Yeah. Death Touch, I think what we've seen used is usually smaller bodies.
It's pretty hot right now.
So something like Pestilence or Pyrohemia, where you're just paying black or red, respectively, to deal 1 damage to all creatures and players, is perfect for clearing out those small blockers like that. You play Queen Marquesa, where you get your Death Touch assassins. Would clear those out immediately.
It would.
No biggie.
That would be annoying.
But Drana, Calastria, Blood Chief.
Gotta get that life-giving colostrum, dude.
It's
true. And only Calestria or cholesterol has it. That life-giving colostrum.
Exactly. The life-giving colostrum. Traginus.
Every time.
3 and 2 black for a 4/4. What we're really interested here is her activated ability. X and 2 black. Target creature gets -0/-X until end of turn. And Drana, Calastria, Blood Chief gets +X/+0 until end of turn. We saw this used as a commander a long time ago in our play group, and I think we kind of theorized it was used a little bit wrong.
I think
we were kind of encouraging
we built it wrong.
The second version of doing +X/+0 and kind of making her a Voltron. But there's also just the ability to drain creatures out.
Yeah.
So it's a nice spot removal. I think repeatable things like that, if you maybe want to fill your deck with some fodder and do is it attrition that you can sack off and destroy things, like that would work too.
You just have to have something to sack off though.
But you would need to have fodder for that. So that would be another theme that I haven't put in my deck. Just a thought. Okay, so the other thing that I'm thinking here with Xantcha is Voltron by proxy.
I like the sound of that.
I think it sounds real sweet.
Okay.
So here you have this 5/5 that's out on turn 3 that has to attack. Can't come at you.
What are you going to do with that?
She's going to sink some teeth into things.
Yeah, why not?
So let's fill our deck full of auras.
Because equipment won't work.
Yeah, equipment will not work in this case. So let me ask you a rules question here.
Hit me with it.
So let's look at a card like Crown of Flames.
Okay.
So it's 1 red, enchant creature, and it has 2 activated abilities. Because it's on a creature that you don't control. You control the enchant still, correct?
Yes.
So you can activate these.
Yes.
So it has red, enchanted creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So just fire breathing.
Yeah, it's fire breathing.
And it also has red, return Crown of Flames to its owner's hand. So you can save it and continue to utilize it.
Not bad.
Something that I was interested in making sure I'm using a decent amount of, littering in here a decent amount. Remember, I've kind of increased the spot removal so that I can save her from dying. But another way to accomplish this is to give her first strike.
Just swat them away.
Yeah, so she will kill, if people block, she will kill those things before they can kill her.
Okay.
So something like Dragon Grip. It has Ferocious, so if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may cast Dragon Grip as though it had Flash. I don't anticipate using that, but just on your turn, enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has first strike.
Okay.
You could do Dust Corona. I've been bringing that one up a lot lately.
I use it in Xi'an.
But it works. It's 1 red. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and can't be blocked by creatures with flying. Fist of the Demigod. So 1 and hybrid Rakdos, so black or red. As long as enchanted creature is black, it gets +1/+1 and has Wither. As long as it's red, it gets +1/+1 and has First Strike.
Wither's really annoying.
Wither is really annoying. We don't see it come up too much. There's not a ton of Wither that exists in the game, but it's it hurts when you're keeping that damage, right? Flaming Sword. It's just 1 and a red. Target creature gets +1/+0, has First Strike. The other forms of evasion can work as well. So like Frenzied Rage, so 1 and a red. Enchanted creature gets +2/+1 and has Menace.
That's good.
Lightning Talons, 2 and a red, +3/+0 and First Strike. Madcap skills.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So 1 and a red. Enchanted creature gets +3/+0 and can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures.
Yeah.
So
that puts it at 8.
Yeah,
8-5.
that puts her on the
Menace.
clock. So a lot of these are gonna put her on the clock. Shiv's Embrace. So enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying. And it also has fire breathing, so you can pay red.
If you really want to punch it.
Yeah. Siege modification, 1 and 2 red. This one's actually kind of weird because it says enchant creature or vehicle. So enchanted creature gets +3/+0.
That's an important flexible option you gotta have, dude. You never know when.
It's true. You never know.
Come out.
So if you need to put some vehicles into your deck just in case,
this is the deck for that.
I did put in some other pressure type cards into the deck, just because she has a very pressure type element to her. I think that's another route you could lean into, is doing pressure with her. I mean, obviously I have some in here with the discard package, but things like Spell Shock, so whenever any player successfully casts a spell Shock deals 2 damage to him or her. We've talked about tracking that. Like,
it adds up.
Cards like Spell Shock do a lot of damage over the course of a game. For some odd reason, they just
there's other things people know they need to remove. And,
yeah. I put the vows in here.
You never know.
You have available.
I think Vow of Malice is one of my favorite vows because it gives the creature some kind of evasion, so they're more likely to attack. Because that's what you want.
So, and the nice thing about the vows is they have a level of flexibility to them, right? Like if there's somebody else that has an incredibly threatening creature on the battlefield, Xantcha already has the caveat that she can't attack you. So if somebody's got that Galta that they're playing with,
well, expand that into
let's go ahead and put Vow of Lightning or Vow of Malice on their creature so they can't come at us. So it has that protection side of it, but it also puts Xantcha on the clock because both of them give her +2/+2. So she would be a 7/7 at that point. And like you said, Vow of Malice gives her Intimidate.
It's only black or red, or whoever else you're gonna pick to Vow of Malice.
Yeah. And then Vow of Lightning, of course, gives First Strike. I put War's Toll in here as well. I don't know if that's
what does that do
needed here. So this is the one that's 3 and a red for an enchantment. It says whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, tap all lands that player controls. If a creature an opponent controls attacks, all creatures that opponent controls attacks if able. There's two things about this. The first part that I think is incredibly valuable here is the second part, because it clears the way for Xantcha to go in, because everybody else is having to tap down and attack, right?
Okay.
The first part may depending on how people respond to it, may be a bit of a non-bow with Xantcha, in that you're making people, if anybody
use all their mana.
Yeah, they have to tap down all their mana. So, but if they've discarded down to, if you've done Sire of Insanity on them, well,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, they got to spend their mana anyways. So,
yeah.
I mean that's kind of it. I would caution. Like I said, I think Xantcha, she has this route you can go that will be decently competitive of doing the infinite mana builds around her, because you can just yoke off and win. I think this build will work because you're going to push things quickly. You're going to remove resources from people. You're incentivizing them to activate the ability. So whoever controls Xantcha is going to have their life totals coming down. And really, frankly, people should be trying to dig for answers, because you've made her your proxy Voltron that's going to pressure people greatly. Their life totals are going to be...
It's a strange strategy for
in a
sure.
Weird place. I will caution, I started to try and put together a list using curses. I think you need a very slow, forgiving play group to accomplish using curses with Xantcha. I just don't see a way to effectively button up the game without trying to get into something else that I just described. And so I think curses distract from another theme that's actually...
Is that a direction you see people taking? Is jumping on the curse
It's definitely
train?
on there. Like, I see people putting curses on their lists. I see it popping up on EDH Rec. And
What about Curse of Opulence? That's probably okay.
Curse of Opulence. Like, there's of course always curses that are like good choices, right? You know, like it. But I think she feels like a curse. That's what I felt like when she first was spoiled. I'm like, this is like a curse. So it feels kind of like, I fucking hate tribal stuff, but, you know, curse tribal almost.
Is the direction somebody might take.
And I don't dislike the idea of doing that.
Okay.
I just don't think
it's as
she can supplement that strategy.
Okay.
To button it up.
So AP was actually looking at this one, and he sent me some cards. I don't know if you included these or not, but
okay.
There's one that's kind of what you left off with, the Total War. Did you see this?
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's 3 in a red. Whenever any player declares an attack, destroy all untapped non-wall creature tokens that player did or that player controls that didn't attack, unless they couldn't attack. So
you're clearing the way for her, essentially.
Well, it's since she's going to attack anyway, you're going to kill everything else that player controls.
Right.
If they don't send them with them. They might send them at you. It also says do not destroy creatures that player didn't control at the beginning of the turn. So like if they just barely resolved them, it's pretty much like if they were able to attack.
Sick, then cool.
The other one is the Maddening Imp. It's 2 in a black for a summon imp flying.
Okay.
A 1/1. You can tap it. All non-wall creatures target opponent controls attack this turn if able. End of turn, destroy each of those creatures that did not attack. Use this ability only during target opponent's turn and only before combat.
Okay.
So I think that one actually doesn't care if they're new or not. It's like, well, they didn't attack.
Gone.
Boom. And then he had one more. I wonder what his idea for this one was. It's called Consuming Ferocity. So it's 1 in a red. Play it on a non-wall creature. Enchant creature gets +1/+0. So that happens as flat. So she'd go up to a 6/5. Okay. During your upkeep, put a +1/+0 counter. So one of the older ones.
I actually had seen that one coming up on EDH Rec.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
On enchanted creature. At the end of any upkeep, if that creature has 3 of these counters on it, bury that creature. It deals to its controller the amount of damage equal to its power.
So
so if you're Voltroning like crazy after 3, it's gonna explode in their own face. But then it rezones.
Yeah, it rezones, so you can either put it on them again or so that was the thing that I had about that one. Because I saw that and I was like,
You'd rather just keep it in play.
I'd rather just try and keep it in play, because I'm pretty sure that you can push their life total down just kind of by the way you're pressuring other people's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you can use Xantcha to just beat face. Like,
sure.
I don't know. I think it's an unstable commander.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, there's a lot riding on having this commander on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And the deck's going to be, I don't know, anything that has kind of a pressure feeling strategy to it is always tenuous, right? Because inevitably people feel like the way to deal with somebody that's doing
they know which way
the
the wind's blowing, like which direction this shit's coming from. So it's like
right.
they're gonna come your way.
So it's clear that you're the person that needs to die.
Yeah, 1/5/5 isn't going to keep them out.
Right. So it's kind of a strange strategy. Another thing, and I think we talked about this when we were doing the review, is limiting combat. You know, like so like a crawl space type thing, where only 1 or 2 creatures can attack each turn. I'm inclined to say decide what your play group does. Like, make that decision based off of your play group.
How wide are they going?
I don't think you need to default to putting that package into your deck, because it's going to eat up space for something that may or may not be necessary.
Sure.
So
the other thing that I see kind of sticking out is Homeward Path.
Oh yeah.
So if that's kind of like a staple, they just push it back to you, and now you're cool. Now you're really kind of annoyed, and except for I guess you have a really, and then sacrifice outlets.
I was gonna say with that being the case, you're gonna need sacrifice outlets. So
well, I mean, you give it to an opponent who has one. They're just gonna sack it. They're not an option.
Yeah.
If they have an Ashnod's Altar out, they're just gonna sacrifice her.
There's some very big blind spots with her for sure.
That part I feel like she cannot be sacrificed. Like, that was kind of an interesting
omission.
Yeah, like I feel like what's the way around that? Assault suit, I suppose. But then you would have to. I don't think you can ever get that on her, because you have to give him to some.
You can't control her. So, like, you won't control her. What I think you do is with that is it's really not going to be a mechanics of the game type thing. It's going to be you as the controller of her, or the owner of her, that plays judiciously. So if you're playing with somebody that's, you know, they've got their deck that definitely has sack outlets in it. Don't bother. Because you can kill them with Voltron by proxy. You'll deal with that player.
Yeah, the opponent, the other guy who doesn't run the sack deck will.
Yeah, put it in there. Somebody's playing Azorius. Yeah, that guy probably doesn't have a fucking Ashnod's Altar in his deck.
Yeah.
Like, give him Xantcha and let him go beat other people, the other people's face. Like,
yeah.
Carador, like,
don't do it.
Yeah, don't give it to Carador. They're it's a waste of your mana.
Yeah, don't give it to Carador. Don't give it to Miren. Don't give it to
anybody playing Orzhov.
Type stuff. Eiley. It's written on the commander with Eiley.
Yeah,
they might use it for a while, but eventually it's going to get put back in your zone.
And it could actually end up being a huge benefit to them in that case, like with Eiley,
because of life total.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a weird commander. I think it'll be fun because its design is very flavorful.
Yeah. I like her better than Mathis. Mathis to me was just, I tried playing the Mathis thing, and it was too much advantage to my opponents.
Right.
I didn't like the life part of it. Weirdly.
Yeah.
That was the part I didn't like.
That is.
Well, it's because of what I was trying to do. I was trying to do this whole Aikido thing.
Yeah. But it is actually kind of bizarre. They've got two years in a row, something like that, where you're sort of like putting it out there to give other players benefit.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like, don't have high expectations for her. She's not gonna, your play. It's
pretty obvious what
your
she's
play
about.
Group's not gonna be like, holy fuck, guys, like,
with all of this, like,
get me an envelope. I need to write a letter to all the content creators. Busted. I don't know what to do when I'm playing against Xantcha. Nobody's gonna be feeling that way. But she could be fun.
With all of this that we've said, like these caveats about her, like, do you feel like the infinite mana thing is a necessity to just finally end it?
I think it's just decide based off your play group. Like, I think if you do, so I think the way we've kind of handled infinites in our group a little bit is they do exist, but
they're usually more than 5 cards.
Yeah, they're light. They're there's other win cons in the decks. So I just think it's whatever works for you and your play group and the people you play with. If you have people that are gonna not be okay with that, like, you obviously just don't do it. Like, don't push that button. But if you want to win, that's the most sure way to win with her, is creating infinite mana. It just is. So, yeah, I think you should. The gradient upon which you do that, I think, is up to you.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to play against it. As for my Brudiclad list, like, yeah, I mean, there's different directions you can take it. Think about what you'd like to clone. I think is probably the place that you could go. I don't really have any alternate configurations. I kind of try to do that with some of my deck lists, like different ways to configure it.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's any other way, you know. So yeah, board wipe heavy meta, lean towards treasure tokens, and maybe counter magic.
Yeah.
And then maybe do include something that if you're gonna token it, it better be fucking just game ending.
Yeah.
The way I have it is kind of like straddling a little bit of these two ideas. It's got some safety token stuff, has a few pieces of counter magic. The creatures that are clonable are pretty impressive, but they're not your typical finishers.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
Next week.
Next week we're going full enchants.
We're going full enchants. That's 2 Izzet decks in a row. So
yeah, there's a lot of red in the last couple weeks. 3 decks.
How do you feel about that?
A lot of red. I'm actually that's something I need to be. I've been trying to do more this year. Is use red.
We're gonna do you with the freaking New Year's resolutions this coming year. This time.
Yeah, we probably should this next year.
Kyle's New Year's
resolutions.
So we'll do the enchants. I've got Kestia going down,
and then I'll do Estrid. I think it'll be an interesting discussion. I was noticing on Reddit people debating which of those 3 Bant Chantress commanders, new commanders, is going to be the best, and I think there's
best depends on what you want to do.
Exactly.
Best for what?
Depends on what you want to do. But I think there's some things that we haven't all figured out quite yet that we'll learn.
Okay. Well, let's explore that next week then.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time,
Until
Until next time, pal.
Tune in next week.
The camera wasn't even on. You do it again.
Tune in next week.
Dope.